because, but,
No, because people aren't having big get
Thank you.
You now exist. So if you speak now, they will hear you.
Oh, I don't know.
Do you want me to turn off your microphone?
Sure.
It does mean if you.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for signing in on Zoom. And sounds kind of like a rock show, but I think we got the feedback squared away. So thanks everybody for joining us on Zoom today for our annual meeting via Zoom. It's a small group, but we really appreciate everybody who's come on. Just wanted to very briefly, before we get started, just acknowledge Ken DeBell, who passed away a couple of days. Ken was just a fixture in meetings around Shenango County advocating for dairy farmers and very charismatically talking about the need to protect small farms, and was always there, always vociferous and a strong advocate. And we've really missed him the past few years when he hasn't been in the meetings, and we're really sorry to hear about his passing. So anyway, just wanted to recognize Ken for his years of service to Shenango County agriculture. Regarding this meeting, the purpose of this meeting is twofold. Basically, we have one bit of business to do in this meeting each year, and that's to elect our new board members for our board of directors. So later in the meeting, I'll ask you to follow the poll and to vote for our new board members. But the rest of the meeting is devoted to reviewing the year and recognizing the staff and all the great programming that we had this year. This year was an especially challenging year because of COVID, no question, but I've told the staff and everyone that I've been dealing with lately just how proud I am of the programming that we've had this year. The staff has done an amazing job of taking the challenges of COVID and turning them into great opportunities to do new things and reach out in new ways. And really, of the 10 and 11 years that I've been here, I've never been more proud of the staff and never been more excited by the new programming that we've been doing this year. So it's been a great year for us, and you'll hear more about that later on. Before we go any further, I just want to recognize our board members. No organization like ours can get by without volunteers, and the lead of the volunteers, the leadership for the volunteers, come from our board. So I just want to recognize them right now. Our board president, Paul Moranis, our vice president, Yusuf Harper, treasurer, Jessica Kelsey, secretary is Jennifer Ryan, Nathan Funk, Robert Davis, Mike O'Reilly, Jordan Fleming, Patty Von Mecco, Marge Davis, Peter Flanagan, and Robert Davis. So thanks to everybody on our board for the service that you do. Really appreciate that. This year, we've got a couple of board members coming off after serving their terms. They are Jennifer Ryan and Nate Funk, and we just want to give a special thanks to them. Right now, we're going to do the polling for our new board members. We have Grace Provence coming on as a new board member, and Jessica Kelsey is renewing her board membership for another 3-year term. So if you can find the poll on your screen and vote for those 2 candidates, that would be a great help to us. That's the official business that we have to do in our meeting. So thank you for everyone for doing that. If we're good to go on that, if I get the thumbs up, then I'll move on to Eric Smith, who's our guest speaker for today. So I'm not getting a thumbs up quite yet. So please make sure that if you can, that you're able to vote for our board members. And then we will also need to have the staff here in the room take advantage of the ballots that we have here as well. So, okay, I'm getting the thumbs up. So moving on to our guest speaker, joining us from somewhere in Seneca County is Eric Smith. And Eric is kind of a very interesting young man. He joined us this year to replace Kevin Gano, who retired from the dairy and field crop teams. And Eric has a very interesting life story that started in Seneca County, as I understand it, and I'll let him fill you in on the details.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, so started in Seneca, and here I am still in Seneca, but I took kind of a circuitous route. And once we can manage to find a house out in central New York, we'll be out there with you all. So looking forward to that. So yeah, thanks for everyone for joining and allowing me to share my story and how I see myself working into this position and going forward. So I'm going to try and share my screen. Whoops, host disabled participant screen sharing. So I might need to be made a co-host so I can share my screen. There we go. Okay. And once I've done that, I will have to switch display settings, I think. Or how does that look? Is that the correct view, or do I need to switch?
It works for me.
Yeah, it works, Eric. We can see it
Okay.
just fine.
All right, thank you. So yeah, before I get into my own story, I wanted to share a little bit about our team and what we've been up to this year. So the 3 folks at the top of the screen, if you're not familiar with them, Nicole Tamel, our team leader and ag business management leader specialist, Dave Belbian, our area dairy specialist, and Ashley McFarland, our livestock specialist. And Kevin on the left and myself at the bottom. So Kevin started the year in my position and I took over in August. And this year began like any other year, very successful in-person meetings, helping to educate farmers in the region about a number of different issues. Corn Day on the left is an annual meeting that Kevin started. And I hope to continue, and I will continue as the years go by. That was attended by 98 people. Ashley held a meat marketing workshop, as you can see on the upper right. And in Shenango County itself, she had a sheep and goat nutrition workshop, which had 30 producers. And at the bottom, Dave Belbian's Dairy Day that he organizes each year, also very well attended. But of course, very soon after, everything shut down, as we all know. But I wasn't here yet, but I know quite well that the Cornell Cooperative Extension community really came together to allow our extension agents and our county associations to help distribute and interpret a lot of the different information that was coming out from the state, and to help local businesses, local farmers navigate this new situation in a very difficult time where income was not guaranteed and being able to market your farm products was not guaranteed or easy. So that was a great challenge for everyone at the beginning. And of course still continues. But since March, we transitioned to largely virtual meetings, workshops, webinars, and courses. And by my count, we had at least 27 online events since March, and not just COVID related, but also some of our normal programming that we had planned to undertake as well. So it was kind of a double duty for the folks who are doing this through this year, not just their normal programming, trying to help producers and community members, but in their normal farming businesses, but also trying to navigate the new regulations with COVID. And one thing that I did want to point out is while many of the programs were virtual and perhaps not recorded, one thing that Pro Dairy did, which is the dairy team from Cornell, which Dave Balbian from our team is very much involved. They produced a podcast called Dialing Into Your Best Dairy. There were 8 episodes, which are available online. You can find them from the Pro Dairy website or from any place where you normally get your podcasts. And Dave was featured in at least 4 of those episodes. And I believe he was involved in the rest as well. And in order to make a lot of these virtual training sessions and workshops available in the future, we started a YouTube channel. And here's some brief examples of that. On the top right, you can see Nicole talking about CFAP, which is the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, which helped producers offset some of the COVID-related costs. And also Dave's typical pre-corn silage harvest program, which normally he'd conduct in person, but this year it was online, also very well attended and available for viewing. Things like that. And I even got into the fun myself. On the bottom right is a clip from a video that I produced that was scouting for alfalfa insect pests, specifically the potato leafhopper, which is a damaging pest of alfalfa. And so by starting this YouTube channel, we hope to produce a lot more content as time goes on that folks can view as and when they can and will. So the URL is obviously kind of crazy, but if you go to YouTube and search CNY DLFC, you'll be able to find us. And the more folks we have subscribing, the faster we will reach that threshold that we can rename our channel to something much more easily memorized and searchable. So looking forward to doing more with that. So with the challenges of COVID, we've found opportunities to reach more folks in different ways. And certainly a highlight for myself, and I know it's a highlight for Kevin, was Kevin's retirement this year. So after a very long, very successful career, he was able to retire this year, which was great for him and worked out very well for me because I was able to join this incredible team that we have. And so now for this second part, I'd like to share a bit about my story and how I came to be in this team and in this role as field crop specialist. So that gentleman is LeConte Meyer, who's my grandfather. He's the 4th generation who farmed Meyer Farm in Seneca County. And so we have a long history of farming in my family, which is continued today by my 2 uncles, John on the right and Joe on the left. John has been farming, the one who runs the farm for the last 35 years. He's been doing it organically since the 80s, and he produces small grains. And my Uncle Joe on the left takes those grains and turns them into small batch spirits like whiskey and gin and others. So if you're ever out in the Finger Lakes, look them up. It's good stuff. So with inspirational and great role models like this, entering a career in agriculture and ag science was really natural for me. Even though I didn't grow up on the farm myself, this was a big part of my life growing up. And so, interestingly, I did start my undergraduate career as a meteorology major. But during the summer, I was a field technician at the New York State Agricultural Experiment Station in Geneva, which we now call Cornell Agritech. And I worked with Dr. Brian Nault, researching what we call integrated pest management techniques for a number of different insect pests in vegetables, soybean aphid, seed corn maggot, and others. And this was enough to inspire me to change from meteorology to biology so I could get closer to pursuing that career in ag science that had captured my interest fully by this point. But as you'll see later, I definitely kept meteorology, that interest close to my interests. So right after graduating, I joined as a technician, as a full-time technician in the small fruit lab of Greg Loeb, where I learned about other pest management techniques. So broadening my experiences at this point. And that prepared me for beginning my master's studies under Brian Nault again, where I was able to identify dandelion and burdock in particular, but in general, broadleaf weeds as a host for this pest on the left, which is an onion thrips. It's called a thrips. It can damage onion crops and many other crops by feeding and also by spreading pathogens. And I identified these broadleaf weeds as reservoirs for both the pest and the pathogen. And so something that really stuck with me at this point was seeing how farmers took that information and they were able to put it into direct use. And so this is a weedy area next to their crop fields where they've applied a selective herbicide to try and promote grasses and to kill the broadleaf weeds that can be the reservoirs for these pests and pathogens. So by maintaining grassy areas, they're able to limit the number of pest insects and diseases that were entering their crops. So that was a really, that was a great result that I could see directly from my research. And so I continued on, and this is where I was able to reincorporate my fascination and appreciation of weather and meteorology back into my research. So I was looking at dispersal and movement, aerial movement of these pests and of the virus that they're carrying. And I was trying to tie it to weather patterns. And so I was able to identify movements that were tied directly to specific weather systems. So in advance, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but in advance of these frontal systems, thrips would take flight and they would essentially surf on these air masses all across the landscape. And so that's how typically the pest and the disease get into the crops in springtime. But in fall, I also looked at the movements of those pests between fields. And so what I found was that in fall, when, as you see on the upper right, there's a crop that is drying up and dying, those pests, the onion thrips that are in those crops will move directly next door into crops that are still green and won't be harvested for another few weeks. And so we can put this into practice, this knowledge, and apply it to how farmers are growing their crops. Because you have this situation, which if you look at the color coding, this is a very typical situation in many onion fields that we have in upstate New York, where the crops might be harvested in different times of year, some in July in yellow, some in August in blue, and some in September. This is just an example. And so what you will see is when they're harvested in July, these thrips will move right next door, as I showed in my research, and you will potentially have an infestation in those crops all over, in all of your fields. And this can be very expensive when it comes to losses, crop losses, and if you're trying to use a chemical crop protectant to manage those pests. So if it's possible, we propose that this is a viable solution. So you could organize your fields such that you will know exactly where those pests are going to go upon harvest. So this was another great, experience for me in showing that the research that we're doing at Cornell can directly benefit farmers and how they produce their crops, and gives a direct benefit to their bottom line. So right after that, I started a postdoctoral project with Elson Shields in field crops, that is corn and soy and forage crops like alfalfa. What this map shows is the entire population spread, or the range, of the alfalfa snout beetle in the Western Hemisphere. It's all in upstate New York, and it has hardly moved in nearly 90 years. The reason for that is because they're soil-dwelling pests. They feed on alfalfa roots and really hammer those crops year in and year out. And they're very difficult to manage because they only surface for 1 week every year. And to try and manage those chemically is nearly impossible. So we needed to figure out another way. And so this is something that my supervisor, Elson, has been working on for decades, that I helped try and illustrate what's happening in the field. So he uses a parasite of those soil-dwelling insects called nematode, an entomopathogenic nematode. It feeds only on insects in the soil. And we showed that just applying those nematodes in a very narrow strip, 1 year they will spread throughout the field in only a very short period of time. And on the right, these charts show the persistence of that biological control, those nematodes, throughout 5-6 years or more without having to reapply this biocontrol. So that was another really great experience for me that broadened my experiences even more when it came to pest management and crop production in general. But after that concluded, I had a short stint as a full-time stay-at-home dad for the first half of 2017 while my wife finished up her PhD. And my wife is Singaporean. She was born in Singapore, but she went to Cornell, which is where we met. And so after that, we moved across the globe to Singapore for a couple of years. And so for those who don't know, Singapore is a city-state. The entire country is less than 10 miles from west to east, but there are nearly 6 million people living there, highly urbanized. And, you know, when I first got there, I thought, well, I'm never going to find a job. I'm a country boy studying agriculture. What sort of agriculture is going on in a highly urbanized city like this? Well, sure enough, there is some agriculture, and I was hired as a phytopathology, that is plant disease, and integrated pest management specialist by the Singapore government. And just to give some perspective on this country, it's on the equator, it's tropical, but this is to scale. So it is where we see Oxford and Norwich. You could probably drive there in only a few minutes, but in Singapore, this is about where the central business district is, and Norwich is located in one of the outer communities. And to take public transportation like bus or train in Singapore, it would be about 45 minutes or more. So very highly urbanized, but they do have a sizable, or at least relatively large ag economy, considering for being so urbanized. So when we compare it to Shenango County directly, more than 100 times the population on 1/3 of the land area. Total agricultural area is quite small, but they're farming high value crops like leafy vegetables, eggs, fish. So their return per acre is enviable, really, $33,000 per acre. But per farm, not too much different from what we see here. But the big difference there is the intensity with which these lands are managed. So this was another really great opportunity for me to see another perspective on agriculture and how crops are raised. So that's me inspecting some lettuce crops for disease and pests with some of my great colleagues while I was there. And this is a typical vegetable farm that you would see there. Very densely planted. Each one of these plants is transplanted by hand. It's harvested by hand. Everything is tilled and fertilized all by hand. So very intensive management. And because it's tropical, it's on the equator, they get 12 crops a year from this land. It gets no rest. So 30 days per crop, right after harvest, a new crop gets planted. So it's extremely intensive practices, which they also have some high-tech vertical farming that they engage in, but that's really in the beginning stages in Singapore. But like I said, another really great perspective that I was fortunate to witness and be a part of over there. And after that, after my stint with the AVA, I moved on to the National University of Singapore, where I was a research fellow and the project manager for the black soldier fly food waste recycling project on campus. So we would collect all the food scraps from the various cafeterias and canteens and feed them to these flies, which admittedly kind of look like wasps, but they have no stinger, they have no mouth parts, they cannot feed as adults, they only mate, lay eggs, and die as adults. So they're very clean, they don't transmit disease. But the larvae, the maggots, are really highly productive. They'll eat any organic matter, just about. And after only a few weeks, they will take raw food waste and turn it into fertilizer and soil replacement that can be used for vegetable farming, as you see on the right. And chickens love them, so the larvae themselves are used for livestock feed, either fresh for chickens, or they can be processed into fish food or even pet food, as some companies are doing. And at the height of the project, we were recycling nearly a ton of food per week. And we had as many black soldier flies in our facility as people in Singapore itself. So 5.7 million black soldier flies. And another great part of this experience for me was getting to work with all the different government agencies that cooperated with this project. So all of those experiences really enriched my understanding of agriculture in all of its different forms, and just seeing that while, you know, miles away, half a world away, some of the problems that farmers are going through are really not so different, whether you're here or there. So that brings me to today, where I am in this position that I just started as field crop specialist in Central New York. And so my main responsibilities are with grains, corn, soy, and small grains such as wheat and rye and barley, things like that. And with forage crops, that's hay crops, pastures, and silage. And so my job is to educate and produce educational material and programs and advise farmers on the best production practices for their crops to get the best yield that they can out of their acreage, whether that's from certain cropping strategies, various nutrient management strategies, or harvest timing itself, as we do in some of our programs. And also with pest management, which is something that I've spent a great deal of time on. And finally, to finish up, to talk about my main goals as I move forward in this position, to continue the successful programming that Kevin has begun in the past, such as the Corn Day program that I mentioned earlier, also the alfalfa first cutting harvest program that has been going on for some time, as well as some of the weather monitoring program, which is near and dear to me, that helps farmers predict when their crops need to be harvested. And secondly, to identify and develop programming or identify gaps in our production systems and to develop programming to address those gaps. This year, a huge problem was weeds in our forage, in our hay crops, in our pastures. That was likely due to the very dry conditions that we had this year. And so going forward, I really want to spend some more time looking at educational programming to address hay management or forage production management. And also to keep an eye on the trends as they come along. We have some hemp producers in the area, as well as some hop producers. These are what we would call emerging crops in the region and in the state. I see it as my responsibility to, as much as I can, help those farmers navigate a really difficult position of being early adopters to some of these crops and trying to figure out how to go about to produce the best yield that they can. And we have a great tradition in this area for agricultural products. Central New York is home to Greek yogurt, and we have a great brewing industry that takes advantage of barley and hops. And I'm excited to help farmers see what we have on the horizon. So thanks again for letting me share my story with you and talk a bit about how I hope to fit in.
Okay. Well, thanks, Eric. That was great. I know the staff here was very interested in hearing about your family farm and the production of spirits there, as well as the soldier flies, and we're looking for a collaborative effort in 4-H with that. So anyway, just wanted to take a moment at this point in time to identify our staff, introduce our staff, and to thank them again for a great year. I think one of the things that I've learned of working with our group for the past 10 years has been that they are remarkably creative and able to roll with punches. And of course, this is a year when the opportunity to do that was as good as it could be. So without further ado, I'm just going to read the names off because we don't have a great way to do this. And some folks are in the building with us and some folks are on COVID quarantine and some folks are joining us from home. So Alice Andrews, our wonderful financial manager, is in COVID quarantine right now, but we look forward to getting her back in just a few days. Rhonda Turrell, who is the ringmaster for this event for today, when she's done a great job of getting us all ready and getting all of the things squared away for this, with a lot of help from Janet Fromm for today's meeting. Betty Clark is going to be joining us in a minute on Zoom to talk about SNAP education. Nisa Pantelio will be helping her, as will Whitney Metz. Alexis Woodcock will be telling us her exciting year in Grow, Cook, Serve. Richard Turrell from 4-H. I don't know if Richard's making a presentation today or not. He's shaking his head. Erica Clark is shaking her head as well, but I'm thinking maybe we should recruit her for a spontaneous off-the-cuff presentation. And then Rich Tabor will be making a presentation. So anyway, that's our staff, our creative, flexible staff. And we're going to start out right now by switching over to Betty. Is that okay? And that she's got the capability of just joining us and we don't have to, we probably want to mute ourselves. Betty's gonna have to, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can. Hooray.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to see everybody could join today. And I am the SNAP Ed team leader for the Shenango, Cortland, and Madison County area, but we are part of the 7-county Southern Tier region. And as of October 1st, we began our second 5-year grant period, which is very exciting because the first 5 years, there was some huge changes to the program, and it gave us the opportunity to work in schools and I'll have a bigger reach for nutrition education. So so we were very excited that we were able to get the second of this 5-year program. And of course, the goal was to be able to increase our presence in the schools across all 3 counties. So we were anticipating using a curriculum that we call Catch, which is a fantastic curriculum that engages students, teachers, and everybody else in the schools to make healthy eating and physical activity a priority. And then there's the Smarter Lunchroom movement, which of course we like to try to encourage our schools and the cafeterias to offer children the healthiest options out there. And so working with them, and the plan was this year that Whitney was going to be going into the Sherburnerville Elementary School as an intern to start the Smarter Lunchroom program. And then COVID hit. And obviously, like everybody else, things changed dramatically. And with nobody being able to go into the schools and the whole teachers and everything trying to just figure out how they could continue teaching their students, we also had to figure out how we were going to produce materials and things that we could use with our students and hopefully adults at some point. And so what happened was eventually the state came up with a plan and decided that our educators were going to be turned into production specialists, digital, creating scripts and recordings and stuff. So this was a huge learning curve, and more so for my educators, Nisa and Whitney, than myself, because I'm just I'm just not that, I'm not as technical, savvy as they are. And at this point here, I just wanted to thank both of them for all of their continuing efforts to put together these virtual lessons that unfortunately, have to go through a pretty rigorous process to get approval by the state. But right now we're looking at a lot of material that's available to us. Anything that's produced in the state we can use. I mean, there is a little bit more to it than that, just saying, okay, this county produced some materials that they're using in schools, so we can use it. There's another step added to that, so it's not easy, but I'm pretty confident that that it won't be long before we'll be having more stuff available to us, and then hopefully getting the opportunity to to at least virtually go into some schools and deliver some education. So of course, like everybody else, once the vaccine for COVID is out there, and maybe by next fall things will be back to normal and we'll be able to continue. We certainly miss our in-person programming, but I just really want to thank Nisa and Whitney for their continuing efforts to just one step forward, just keep pushing, and so they are really the backbone of our SNAP-Ed program.
Thank you, Betty.
You're welcome.
We'll have Nisa.
Well, whatever title she just gave me, I don't know if I really qualify for it. I've worked with SNAP-Ed for many years now. I want to say like around 8. So yes, this was a very challenging year. Began pretty normal, as normal as I can say. We reached out to our community partners. We work with the mental health clinics, a lot of school programming in school and after school. And yes, once COVID hit, things were a little bit more challenging. But I'm proud to say we were still able to reach out to many partners. I distributed a lot of material to pantries, recipes, and stuff like that. Plus, we were able to partner with extension members. I've worked a little bit with the Grow Cook Serve with Alexis. I've done some stuff with 4-H educator Erica Clark. We were given a very generous donation from a local farm. It's in Madison County called Common Thread. And we were able to do these ingredient challenges with the kids where we give them a very unique vegetable like broccoli rabe or Swiss chard. And they had a challenge to incorporate it into a recipe. It could be a new recipe or something they were already making at home and just add it in. The main thing was to make sure that it was stuff that you already had in your home. And these kids did some awesome work, came up with some very creative things. So I'm proud to say we were still able, to do a lot during this challenging time. And I'll lead the way to my partner in crime, Whitney Kometz. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nisa. It's so great to be here with everybody today. Just to kind of say one thing, we've had a lot of uncertainty in our world over the course of these last several months, but we definitely know one thing for sure: social media is rising. And I think everybody can say that now. And, we can see evidence right from our SNAP-Ed team. From March until October, we had over 18,000 people reached, and that was with likes, shares, or views on our page. So we've done some really cool things on our page. So I just really wanted to pipe in on the chat box so you guys can kind of see some of our stuff. You can check us out on Facebook at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Shenango County. And also to learn more about our program, you can reach us at snapednewyork.org. There's some really cool things going on, not only in our county, but all around the state. So please take a look, check us out, like us, check out some of the things we're doing. We're doing some great stuff. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Whitney, and everybody from SNAP-Ed. I think you heard just the way that people flex this year. Next, I'd like to introduce Janet Fromm, and I'm sad to say that Janet is graduating from our program and moving on to Kansas. And so just want to give her a special thanks for her incredible efforts this year to have an ag program and the ag extravaganza at the Shenango County Fair. I'm sure she'll tell you more about that. So without further ado, here's Janet to tell you about our 4-H program.
Well, I hope you're all paying attention because I noticed from the computer screen you all got your cameras off. So I just want to say thank you very much for an exciting 2020. And if I had known last fall when the kids voted on the fair theme, it was going to be the Roaring 20s, what that would bring, I would have bought a lotto ticket that day. I'd like to thank all of our supporters for continuing to support us, either financially or with your time, your expertise. I'd also like to thank all of our volunteers who have really stuck with us. It's been challenging, especially for our club leaders, not being able to meet, not being able to get together until really this fall. So thank you all for sticking with us. I'd also like to thank all of the CCE staff. It's been a pleasure working with everyone this year. And we are an organization that we help each other out. Our programs do some counter programming all the time. And it's really been quite a productive year. And I'm not going to complain because I went viral in 2020 in a good way. So that was pretty exciting. We did have quite a presence on social media. We adapted our program from in-person to virtual, and then we're going back to in-person slowly and in a safe manner. But just what we learned this year, anything can be taught online. It may not be taught well the first time, but we can teach it online. Whether it be dissecting owl pellets, doing some cooking, some STEM, community service, arts and crafts, you name it, we can teach it online. Our Facebook page averaged about 135 to 150,000 views for the year. Our YouTube channel, which we created this year, has all of our 4-H videos on it, the how-to project videos and what you can teach to adults and youth. That has quite a few followers as well. And we're also on Instagram. So if you are using any of those platforms, please check us out, all under Shenango County 4-H. So Richard ran our ES 237, which is our yearly annual report, and he handed me the numbers and I said, did you get these numbers from a poll worker? This doesn't seem right. We had over 10,398 contacts this year with our 4-H in-person and online programming. And thank you all. Thank you all for participating in our programs, whether it be online or in person. It shows that we are valued and that we are making a difference in our community. Some of our program highlights this year included our after-school program, which was going really, really well until March. We were working with 12 different programs. We had 375 youth on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Our outdoor adventure program was active all year long. We did take a little bit of a break, but once we got going at the end of July, Erica was out there kayaking and hiking and fossil hunting and everything else. We also did a bunch of Zoom programs for our 4-H members. We had 3 online challenge contests with some interaction with our youth before we can meet. We also had over 25 Zoom programs for collaborative partners. Our shooting sports program had 8 in-person events, and we were also very fortunate to be funded this year by the Otis Thompson Foundation for $670 to upgrade our equipment. Richard spearheaded a chestnut restoration project, which involved 12 members and their families with 15+ hours of direct education. And if you follow that on Facebook, that was a very fascinating program to participate in. We had an extravaganza. We got shut down. No state fair, no county fair. We'll work around it. We'll have a 3-day in and out show. We had over 400 exhibits from 120+ exhibitors come in and out and show, and we did it in a safe and efficient manner. That was totally community supported, totally community run. Everybody worked for free, and we pulled it together. We also had our Achievement Day down at the fairgrounds, and it was really cool because we got to like chuck pumpkins and launch potatoes out of a potato cannon and do all sorts of cool stuff. And we finished up the year with a drive-in movie. Thank you very much to the Colonial Movie Theater for that opportunity. Also at Achievement Day, we recognized our Volunteers of the Year, which was Ron Meek from our shooting sports program from Oxford, Brittany Fairchild from our livestock program from Sherburne, Elise Robinson, who is our long-term volunteer, who is my right-hand person for clerking shows. She's from Sherburne. And then we recognize the Shenango County Board of Supervisors as our Friends of 4-H this year. So thank you very much for your continued support. I'd also like to thank Senator Fred Axsher and Assemblyman Cliff Crouch. They have recognized our volunteers and sent certificates, so we will get those out to our volunteers. I'd also like to thank Assemblyman-elect Angelino for his continued support of Cooperative Extension, and we look forward to his partnerships in the future. So the future of 4-H, we're going to continue a hybrid learning model, but getting back to the hands-on learning that 4-H is built upon as soon and as fast and as safely as possible. We're also creating an online learning classroom, 4-H learning classroom, that Erica will be running, and that will be updated probably on a weekly basis to give people, kids, a place to hang out with 4-H after school. We're also increasing our community partnerships and our collaborative partnerships, so we're going to be out and about with the community a lot more. And as Ken said, there's going to be a change in management. I'm heading to Kansas to become a first-time ever educator in 2 counties, and I'm very excited about it because they offered me a tornado pod and ruby red snake boots as part of the benefits package. Very excited about that. But I just want to thank everybody. It's been 15 wonderful years, and I wish you all the best of luck. So thank you very much, and I will turn it back over to Ken.
Well, thank you very much, and we just appreciate the powerhouse of effort that Janet has put forth over the past 15 years, and I will get to my mark. If you're interested in saying farewell to Janet, give us an email or a phone call, and we'll let you know how you can express
Or send
it.
cash.
I know it is not going to be possible to top snake skin boots. I'm pretty sure about that. So, and they're ruby red.
They're going to be ruby red.
Okay. Always a challenge to follow Janet, but Alexis is going to come and do it. Alexis is, like all of us, had a roller coaster adventure year, but here she is to tell us about it in Grow, Cook, Serve.
Hello, everyone. Like Ken said, I'm Alexis Woodcock. I run the Grow, Cook, Serve program. I'm pretty sorry to see Janet go, but I'm glad I'm not going to have to follow her anymore at these annual meetings because she's does a great job. So Grow, Cook, Serve is a program that's funded by the United Way, and our goal is to provide access to fresh local produce to families in need. We glean produce from local farms and donate it to food pantries. We do nutrition education. We do cooking and gardening education. So this year has been, like everybody says, challenging, but also has offered us some opportunities to really kind of grow and change how our program is presented. So in early April and May, we designed some 8 gardening education workshops. And at first I thought, oh, no one's going to show up to these, these Zoom virtual workshops. By the end of it, we had 960 participants in the workshops and 833 people watched the recordings posted on YouTube. And the participants were, down the street in Oxford and then all the way in Puerto Rico. So we really extended our reach this year, and it was a lot of fun. And like Janet said, the first one is a little shaky, but by the end, I think we kind of are all experts at Zoom now. In addition, we've collaborated with SNAP Ed. Whitney and Nisa, nutrition educators, have been a ton of help for me and providing a ton of nutrition education and cooking resources. If you haven't already, please check out our YouTube page, and maybe Whitney could post the link there in the chat. And you can see Whitney weekly doing cooking recipe videos for you. And those videos have been viewed almost 8,000 times on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So thank you, Whitney, for putting those together. It's been, you know, I came at you in April and I said, hey, can you do this? And you did it like a champ. And you learned, leveled up, learned how to create, edit, and post these wonderful videos. So I really appreciate our collaboration there. We continuing to glean produce, and this year we've gleaned 3,000 pounds of produce that were donated to food pantries and soup kitchens here in Shenango County. With the help of NISA, another SNAP Ed educator, we distributed that produce along with recipes. So when we were getting, you know, things like Turkish eggplants, NISA could find a recipe for me and we could give that to the food pantry so those folks could figure out how to cook that wonderful fresh produce. We also collaborated with the Morrisville Dairy Day food drives. We're able to redirect some funds so that we could donate some fresh produce to those dairy drives, as well as cooking, nutrition resources, and recipes, and then, you know, just some time. So we faced many challenges this year, and I think that those challenges has just helped us level up, become better educators, become better community members, and I look forward to kind of using those new skills and applying it to our already established program. And I'm excited to see what 2021 will bring. So thank you very much and happy holidays.
Okay, well, thank you, Alexis. And again, you hear all of the amazing things that folks did this year and the great collaboration across teams. Now I'd like to invite up kind of our Swiss Army knife natural resources ag education educator, Rich Tabor. Rich has a background in both agriculture and forestry, so he ends up doing a lot of different things for us, and he'll tell you about that right now.
Hi, everyone. And as you've heard again and again and again, this year kind of like really slammed all of us into a new way of doing business. And we started up, you know, last winter, several of us were up at the State Fairgrounds for the outdoor show. And then we followed up just a few weeks later at the farm show. And then right after that, COVID came along and our whole paradigm changed in how to do business. But as Ken mentioned, I'm kind of like the jack of all trades here, and I deal extensively with the new and beginning farmers, and typically people purchase land in Shenango County, and they contact me, and the calls come into me, and I try to get them hooked up and connected with the Cornell Small Farm Program resources, plus whatever we can bring to assist them here in Shenango County. Well, Shenango County has long been an agricultural county, as well as something like 60% of our land area is covered in forest. So we've always encouraged and supported a variety of ag production in addition to dairy, grazing, livestock, horticulture, woodlot management. And we continue to do that, except now I do it more remotely. We've still been able to go out and do some farm visits, on-site visits, but we have to do, you know, social distancing and mask protocols and all that. But we've just had to learn to adapt. And this year we've done some different things. We pushed out a huge amount of hand sanitizer and masks to farmers and people in the county. And oh, by the way, if you still need some, feel free to get a hold of us. We have a good supply of it. Our Amish community, our New Order Amish community in Guilford continues to slowly grow. They've been a very positive force in our county, and mostly in the township of Guilford and surrounding areas, which we helped get them established about 6 years ago. And that's a very nice addition to Shenango County. As Alexis mentioned, we did get to participate, all of us, to one degree or another, in the food drive-bys over at the fairgrounds, where we got to meet Congressman Anthony Brindisi, which was nice. He came down to help with the drive-by one of those. We've also had really ramped up. Now, we've always been involved with media, except even we've had to learn a whole bunch of new things. And just as we're doing today with this Zoom presentation, we've learned to a lot more about this kind of way of doing business. And we also are part of the greater extension system throughout the state. So we are continually sharing stuff from other counties and sharing their Zooms and whatnot. And some of you, I'm sure, have seen quite a few of our postings on Facebook and the other forms of social media. New coming up, we just received, and we're very grateful for, we received a 2-year grant from the Chobani Foundation to bolster livestock production, in particular beef and sheep, in the 4-county region of Shenango, Madison, Otsego, and Delaware counties. And as dairy farming has taken some real economic setbacks, there's a lot of people out there with farmland that they're looking for ways to convert those resources that they own into generating cash so they can keep those farmlands in their families. And that is about what we've been up to here on the agricultural end. So I'll turn things back over to Ken.
Well, thanks. That was a great job. And you kind of hear the variety of things that Rich worked on over the year. He did, I'll just mention in passing, help us with our TIC grant, which was a big part of our work in the early and middle part of the year, and a real success with Ashley Russell, making some great videos that we posted on Facebook and YouTube, and which got viewed more than 400,000 times. So it's kind of exciting to think that over the course of the year, that through Facebook and YouTube, we've connected to more than 500,000 different people this year. Very exciting. I guess as we wind things down, I did want to recognize our Master Gardener program. Our Master Gardeners had a light year this year because a lot of the things that they normally do, like a plant sale or reaching out at the county fair, wasn't available, but they were still there for the people who call us with questions about late blight or insects or poorly producing gardens or flowers, many of the challenges. And so they were a great help to us this year, as always, with that. So in winding down the meeting, I guess one thing I want to make special time to do is to recognize Rhonda Turrell, who probably has had to push her way up more learning curves this year than anyone, or certainly as many as any. She's taken on a lot of new roles as Ashley Russell moved on. And so special thanks to Rhonda. And as a way of showing thanks, I'm not going to ask her to come up here and make any comments. So anyway, so as we wind down, I do want to announce that we did elect our 2 new members of the board, with Jessica Kelsey returning for another 3-year term and Grace Provence joining us for a new term. So thank you everyone for that. Appreciate everyone joining us on this rather unusual Zoom annual meeting. And so for all of you who are still there, thank you very much for sticking with us. And we really appreciate everybody's help in setting up the Zoom. Special thanks to Janet and Rhonda for getting all the ducks in a row, and for Nisa for picking up the food. And so thanks everyone.
Thank you.
No one were muted.
And that's the way it was.
That was